I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, it's back to school time with schools throughout the area, and today we're focusing on the Joplin School District. And joining me is the school board president, Annie Sharp. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Another school year, and this year really is getting a lot more headlines once again. And so I appreciate your taking the time out of a busy summer to come here and welcome you as school board president.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We have lots going on in the Joplin School District, so I'm anxious to share that information.
Great. Well, let's start. As we start, we say Joplin School Board President. For the community, explain, someone comes up to you, they see your shirt, Operation Rising Ease of Joplin Schools. What is the Joplin, how does the school board function? Someone, John Q. Public, what does the school board do?
The school board is a group of 7. We can only act as a group of 7. One person can't make decisions on their own. As school board president, I'm in charge of helping make the agenda, running the meetings, and we do have open meetings. We post our meetings, and they're excuse me, also televised. And we just set policies and just more or less, I'm more or less a cheerleader for the Joplin schools. I get out in the buildings and we watch and just try, and we have some board goals that focus on student achievement and staff retention, and we set goals for our superintendent. And the only person that we do hire is the superintendent.
So the superintendent's the one employee of the school board?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you work very closely with, obviously, the superintendent, who then the rest of the administration works together as a team then,
yes.
Accomplishing. Well, this year, of course, we're talking about the upcoming year and the completion of the high school. I'm sure everywhere you walk, people are asking you about that, and that's something that you've been working hard on the board for a number of years now.
Yes. Well, it's been very quickly. We've had an opportunity to make our high school a state-of-the-art 21st century building. Our architects have listened to the public. We've had design teams working. We've traveled to get all the things that are going into the high school that's sitting at 20th in Indiana. It will have school starting August 25th. And we're doing career paths, which have not been done in this area. And I don't know how deeply you want to get in.
Sure, we'll talk about that. So you're getting not only a new building, but a new approach to the education inside of that building.
Yes, we are. It's more collaborative spaces. When a student comes in, like our 8th grade students have already enrolled, and they pick out an area where they think they would have a lot of interest. For example, if you want to be in TV productions, they would pick that area, and so their studies would focus around that.
Okay, so they're kind of focusing on their areas of interest with the ultimate goal then in helping them transition from high school to a career or to college?
To career or college. When they, we have enough in our high school, we have enough dual credits and AP credits that they can graduate with an associate's degree, or our intent is they'll be college ready or career ready when they leave our high school. They will have some skill, if it takes a certificate, whatever, they will be able to find work as soon as they graduate from Joplin High School.
So not only are you opening the doors on the 25th and welcoming the students in the high school, you're also giving them new opportunities that haven't existed in the high school before.
Yes, we want them to be able to do it all. And we've seen schools that do parts of it, parts of the career path, but they've had to choose. Like if you want to go in robotics, you go into robotics, but then you can't be an orchestra or band.
Oh, okay.
So we want our students to be able to do anything they think they might be interested in. If they want to learn how to be a welder and a doctor at the same time, why shouldn't they?
So it's flexible enough to allow to their individual interests.
And then once they pick a career path, if they say, oh, that may not be good for me, they can very easily go another direction.
Now, some people in the community and the public might be wondering, are they still required to have so many credits to graduate, so many basic math courses, English courses, and things like that?
Yes, it's still, they'll have the credits they need for the core credits in any career path they go. So even if it's kind of like in school, if you start over, you still have made the credits. But like the math class may be more inclined to the math and welding, your basic math that you would use for that.
Okay.
So. It's just going to be all practical information.
Tying them together.
Yes.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the building. That's something that, and you have your hard hat with you, which you've used a lot in this past year with groundbreakings and openings of buildings and so forth. The facility itself, people drive by 20th and see the size of it and say, wow, that's a big building. Tell a little bit about the facilities.
Okay, the building is just under 500,000 square feet. It's about 75,000 square feet larger than we put the high school and Franklin Tech together.
Okay.
So it hold in excess of 2,500 students. We're doing flexible scheduling you know, in the future. You know,
Right.
education's changing, so we don't think that we will outgrow this building because of the way scheduling is going to be. It is, the auditorium is for about 1,200 seat auditorium. It will be done at the first of the year. That is the holdup on the high school. The performing arts will not be ready.
That part of the building we see closest to 20th Street.
But it will be fenced off, and the workers will be there with no interaction with our students. So there's safety features in place for that.
Right.
The
You got a new gymnasium, new athletic
There's going to be
facilities.
3 gymnasiums, a main gym, and then 2 auxiliary gyms.
Okay.
We have added, we've beefed up some of our athletic complex because we figure this is never going to happen again. We, the board administration and the design teams felt like we need to give our students and our staffs everything we can this go around because it's hard to go back and redo. And so we've really done the best we can with the input that was given. I'm really proud of our construction projects because we had students and teachers and staff and community say, this is what, and even with the career paths, we had business people come in and say, this is what we look for in an employee. So we've built our school around all those entities, and so I feel very comfortable that, yeah, I think we probably have it right because it wasn't just the board's decision to put it up. It wasn't just administration's decision. It was a group of stakeholders. So I'm really excited. I think it's
having a say for what they would like to have. Now, is this something that will be unique to Joplin? As you mentioned traveling and seeing other schools. It's not necessarily let's copy what they did in city X or Y, Z. This is Joplin
this will be unique in the nation. There will, in fact, today there's our architect group, Chad Greer and Associates and DLR. They've brought down a group of architects to look at our facility so they can pass on the educational features that we have in our building. So it's going to be a stopping point on people that are building.
So it'll be a model perhaps for other districts to look at and say how are they going to adapt to the changes you are doing those adaptations now.
And one of the fun things in our building as well is the like in the business part, they're going to run the coffee shop in the spirit store. So they'll have to do a business plan. They'll have to order. They'll have to run it.
So hands-on application.
They'll have to show up to work. So that's exciting for me and for the
students who are involved in those areas. And so forth. So a lot of features, a lot of aspects involved, and the building opening up on the 25th for the classes. You're going to then, I guess, once again merge the 2 campuses that you've had separated for the last couple of years.
Yes, we're excited to have 9th through 12th grade back in one spot. And it's going to be, everybody's going to have to be patient and flexible because I think emotions are going to run so incredibly high that day. I mean, there's going to be people everywhere. There's going to be cameras. There's going to be it's going to be an awesome, awesome time.
Now, putting that type of school together so quickly, but also getting it set up for people to walk in the door, you're looking for community input in this form of volunteers to help with that.
Yes, we are. Yes, if you would like to help move, pack, just be a set of hands. We are asking on our website, joplinschools.org, there's a link where you can volunteer, and we're trying to get about 100 volunteers a day from August 11th, and then the week of the following.
Week of the 18th as well.
So there's plenty of time. The first 2 weeks in August, if you're interested in helping.
And we have that website up right now, so you can see that, calling all volunteers. And this could be just something as simple as moving boxes from trucks to classrooms and things like that, and helping out.
Just helping set up a classroom, and then you get a sneak peek of the building as well. So,
so the teachers who are moving in are they've got things boxed up at their old locations, saying, "I'm ready to go."
They have, yes. I've talked to I saw some communication arts teachers yesterday, and they said, when's the day? I mean, we're packed, we're ready, let's go.
Right, and if somebody who hasn't been in a classroom, they see how much goes into a classroom. It's more than just bring the boxes in. There's a lot of setup involved.
There really is. I mean, they want that classroom to be so special for those students walking in the door. I mean, each classroom has their special touches, and when the student comes in, they want them to know that they want them there.
Right. So we'll have the classrooms ready to go. I know that you're looking at furnishings for the buildings. Are there new approaches in furnishings as well? I know I've heard in the past that sometimes the old-fashioned desks are kind of out in a lot of ways.
That is, the furniture I mean, you still have you don't have the typical desk. It's more tables,
Okay.
and they're more on rollers. So if you want to have, you can go ahead and have like a lecture type setting, but also you can make them into group settings.
So you can circle everybody around
So
those tables.
the building itself is very flexible. Lots of open spaces. So there's soft seating, like there's places called think tanks
Right.
where a group can go in there and just kind of chill and work out whatever their project is for the day. So it's just, students today learn a little bit different than we were. And I mean, it's just more collaborative, it's more in a group, and it's fun to watch. It looks like mass chaos, but it's really a neat way to learn. And
So some of the things you're describing, we saw started at the facility at the mall, as far as the think tanks, the open areas. You're taking some of those concepts and putting them then on a larger scale at the new school.
yeah, the students seemed to be able to handle that kind of freedom and be in those, and so it was, I can tell you, I was hesitant because you walk in and there's students walking halls and doing all, and your first instinct is go, shouldn't you be somewhere?
Yeah, it's time for class. Where are you?
Yeah. So it takes so if visitors come into our building after school starts, they're going to look and say, well, why are all these things happening? And it's just a different way. It's just different than how we learned.
And of course, doing things a different way also means for the teachers, perhaps some of them teaching a different way.
Exactly.
Education's been teaching the same way for years, so the teachers had to go through training and ways of teaching, even going back to when you went to the laptops for everybody.
Oh yeah, it was. Our teachers have been great. They just, it's been a high learning curve because not all teachers are just now coming out of college. I mean, it's a different way for them to teach, but it's more specialized to the student. And I think we're reaching I can't say enough about our staff. They've stepped up to the plate and done some good things for kids as far as how we teach and diversifying the teaching and different, not everyone learns the same.
And of course, electronics are such a big part of the world. And you started off with the laptops immediately, when you had the temporary facilities, and you have the iPads for the younger generation. So, just that incorporating how kids learn through these types of electronic devices.
And they're just an aid. I mean, it's not because you have a laptop doesn't mean all the learning is on the laptop. It's just another tool that our staff has available to them.
To help to learn that. Yeah. Now, earlier you mentioned dual credit classes, and for people who haven't been in the schools for a while, years ago there was no such thing as dual credit. You took your high school, you went on to college, but now students can take those college level classes and actually start their college career with a lot of courses out of the way.
Yes, in the high school setting, and it is a cost to students, but it's very much reduced. And so if you take a dual credit math class, algebra class, at the college level and you pass it, that is on your college transcript. As with the AP, you have to take a test, and then if you pass the test, you get
a certain score on the test, you get that credit as well.
But the dual credit is you've paid for it, just like you're going to college at a very reduced rate, and we have a very good program with Missouri Southern in our dual credit program.
And so these courses will be taught oftentimes by high school teachers who have been trained through Missouri Southern to teach those classes?
Yes. They'll be specialized in that area that they're teaching a dual credit in. And it's just I hope that the parents would check into that because it's a cost savings. If you know your child is going to go to college, it's the way to go.
Right, and we all, of course, know about the higher costs of higher education. So
anywhere you can save, and so then they have an opportunity to have an associate's degree coming out of high school. So that's your first 2 years of college.
Walk across the stage at high school graduation, get your high school diploma, but also here's your certificate.
Yeah, exactly.
And tie them together. Well, the construction itself is part of a major project where you had a bond issue supporting it a few years ago.
Yes. And so our community was very, very kind to us and passed the school bond so that we have touched every facility in our district, either new construction or with safe rooms. And we couldn't have done that with the help of our community. They stepped up, and I'm very grateful. And
that safe room construction, that type of work still continues in the district?
It still continues. We have several of them finished. The one at Junks Field is finished. Stapleton, you can get on the website and see all the things. They're not going to remember which ones I left. But the last two on the list, if you're familiar with Joplin Schools, the last two that are getting started are at West Central and Columbia. And we would have hit every one of our 12 elementaries, our 3 middle schools. East is brand new, of course, so it has one built in. North has a basement, and South has inside of a hill. So we're all, and then the high school will have 5 safe rooms, 1 community safe room for 2,500 people, and then in each of our buildings are set up almost as different stacks.
Right, it's kind of little wings lined up next to each other.
And each one of those will have a safe room for our students.
Right.
So I think that Joplin has a lot of areas for people to go if the weather gets frightening.
And when we talk about safe rooms and we see the buildings going up next to schools, that's not just a big open empty building. They're using that on a daily basis for facilities.
Yes, when we did the long range facility plan, a lot of our schools needed like a multi-purpose room. And so when we talked to FEMA, we said these are the needs of the school district. Could we build these as multi-purpose rooms, gymnasium type buildings?
Right.
So then when we have groups, then they're not in the cafetorium.
Right. Used to be you have a cafeteria, they'd push your tables back and have gym in there.
Right. So it not only helps with like assemblies and gym, physical education classes. So that's why they're so tall. They are physical gymnasiums, but they also will dual as we're having intramural type things start up. We're trying to get 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, or 3rd, 4th, and 5th to do like intramural basketball, volleyball. We really want to use these facilities.
So you see them being used beyond the regular class hours of the day? They can stay after school and have
They've been
activities.
used this summer, and they're open for communities to check out and see if they want to use them, rent them, lease them.
Okay.
So
you're encouraging that community interest and use of those facilities.
For any of our buildings, we encourage the community to come and say, hey, we have an organization that needs this kind of room. Do you have something available?
Okay.
So, yes.
And now the school year itself, you've modified a little bit this year as far as the start date. It's a little later than we've normally had, and then you've modified the days, the class hours themselves throughout the year.
So we did the Joplin High School. We wanted to give, just having that extra week gave us time that we needed.
Right, that moving time we've talked about, right?
Yes. So they did tweak the calendar a little bit on how we're going to do hours and days, and we are starting later, and we're going to see, we had a calendar committee put it together, and they brought the recommendation to the board. And if we have to tweak it, that's what we need to do. If it's something that worked really well, this calendar is not set in stone.
So next year you can look at it and analyze how things work.
When we get through this year and we say, that worked really, really well, or, we need to do some different things with professional development and move things around, we have a calendar committee that helps us with that.
Right. So the school board gets a lot of input. You mentioned calendar committee, others bringing these ideas to you to make those final decisions for the operations of the schools.
Yes, on different, we had a committee that was doing for naming rights for our buildings. We have lots of new buildings going up, lots of places that people have an opportunity to support the school district and have their name put on those buildings.
Right.
There's a committee that said, how is that done? So they research it and they look at other districts and say, this is how it's done, and these are kind of the pieces of the building you can name, like the auditoriums and the gymnasiums and fields and libraries. And so that committee said, we would like to do this. These are our recommendations. This is what we found out and around.
So we can try this here in Joplin, which we really
Which takes a lot of pressure off the school board a little bit, because we have committees that do all the legwork, and then they bring like a final product, and it's like,
that makes sense. Let's try it.
It worked. I think that the school board appreciates those committees, even on the bond committee,
right?
The Vote Hope committee. They went out and did all the legwork and explained to people that, yes, we had really good insurance, and yes, we're getting a few donations. Some of them are earmarked for specific things, but we need this little extra help from our community so that we don't build back buildings that are from the 1950s.
So we have the buildings that you need to have for those
and so that's what that bond money is. Right. And we have built some very fantastic buildings. And
well, people are curious, and we hear a lot about the financial side of things, and it's in the news now that the district's going through state audit. So let's talk for a few minutes what that means when we hear, the state of Missouri, state auditors coming to look at the school district.
Right. And that sounds like a scary thing to some, but the school district, right after the tornado, the state auditor was down and said, when these kind of disasters happen, you get an influx of different kinds of monies.
Right.
And we will be coming down to do, to look at your district. And we were expecting it. And so now the state auditor is here, and they do a different kind of audit. We have on our own, we do a financial audit every year.
It's just required procedures.
It's not even required.
Oh,
it's just something that our district does. And we have a financial audit done every year on our own, and their auditors are there actually right now. The state auditor is going to do what they call a performance audit. It's different than a financial audit.
Okay.
Performance audit is they're looking at managerial.
So procedures and operations.
Are you following policy? Are you following laws that you're supposed to be following? So it's more, they're not so much looking at the money aspect as, are you being efficient? Are you, how are you running your business? So it's called a performance audit, and they're just, efficiency, internal controls, effectiveness. So it's kind of different. And so, that's something that, you should want someone to come in and say, hey, you're really efficient here. You're really doing what you need to do. And they'll look for things where you can shore up or do a little bit better. So the school district itself, my fellow board members, we welcome the state audit.
Outside input for
not
you.
only, and you give them a place to be. They're going to be there 4 days a week.
At the district headquarters?
At the district headquarters, and then they'll talk to district employees. I think there's a number if you think you want to share information. They put up a phone number last night and a web address.
So they're seeking input more than just, let's talk to the people who are the administrators. Anybody in the community or somebody involved with the schools can call and give them input.
And we're working they've been down about 3 weeks now. They started, they gave a preliminary list, and our finance department and leadership team have given them the information they need.
And this is going to be a long process. It's not, we'll be out next week and give you a report.
Oh, no. It'll be months. It's somewhere between 4 and 6 months. And they've done we had the state auditor, Ms. Davis, last night tell us, they're doing several districts. Right. But this, because we invited them down and it wasn't petition, then they will pay for
the state's covering the cost.
The state, which was a very big relief for the school district, because it was going to be $75,000 to $100,000
for you to pay for them to come in instead of them coming in on their own.
And so that was the quirk at the very beginning when they said, "Now here we are," because it's like, oh, okay, what's this going to cost us?
Right. And as a school board, I know budgets are a big concern. You deal with budgets quite a bit. You know, that's one of your main roles, is looking at the financial stability of the schools.
And we are very fortunate to have, our district is large enough where the people that are in leadership roles are trained in those roles. So in our finance department, those are all actually accountants and trained in finance. In smaller districts, you have someone that has to do a jack of all trades sometimes. And so we've been very fortunate to have the same people in finance for as long as I've been on the board.
So it falls in line with like running a business, looking at the financial aspect of operations.
Yes.
And I mentioned with the follow-up from the tornado, just the whole financial overwhelming, as you mentioned, contributions and everything coming in. That's been a challenge.
And last night at our board meeting, we, because getting money from your state government and your federal government, it's not like you pay the bill and they reimburse you immediately. So last night we did discuss that we will probably take out, it's a larger loan, for a year, $30 million plus, because of the way that our reimbursements come.
So they can get that check for you to pay for what's
so
been
that
done.
will all be paid back, and then we will also be taking out a longer term loan for a lesser amount to cover how we went above and beyond at our schools. And like I said, we touched every building in our district, and the school board as a whole said, we need to do everything we can do at this time. And we talked about, the finances and the implications of that. And they said, you want to do all these things? And we said, yes, we would like to do all those things. And then you will probably get a loan
to help cover the cost of doing those.
But we're doing about over $200 million worth of construction.
Yeah, that's
a lot of work. So to pay a little bit more to do it right, we thought that was a wise thing for our community.
And in today's world, I imagine that when you talk about bond issues, it was passed to do the current projects, but bond issues aren't a given. You don't see turning around in 3 years saying, oh, we need to do it again.
No, and we're not, in fact, we're going to not go to the voters. When we go over and do what we need to do, and we're going to do the long-term loan, that will be a loan that the school district takes out. That will not be, hey, please help us. Our community's helped us.
So that
and
part
we
of the
don't
community.
feel there's not going to be any new taxes for our community to cover that. That's not how we feel. We feel we've made this better, and
We're going to go from
we have a plan.
Well, from the school board perspective, ultimately the schools are serving the children in the,
Yes.
in the community. You've been on the board since 2000. Tell me your feelings about as you see the children who have gone through the system, how the school affects ultimately the students,
The school building
the school district, you know, the impact you've had on
Oh,
the students.
I'm in a lot of buildings, and our students, I talked to a young man last night, and he was excited about going into second grade because they get to do different things. And so when we were opening our new buildings, some of them were just coming in and go, wow, this is happiness. This is neat. And I've gone in, and I've been in one of our newer buildings, went into Irving one day and watched how the teachers were presenting, and then went immediately to West Central, you know, night and day as far as
older
curb
building
appeal.
versus new building, right?
Went into the classroom, that teacher was doing a similar lesson, exactly. I mean, so it's so even across our district. Whatever elementary, they have a scope and sequence, and you go in, and even though the curb appeal is different, what's going on inside those buildings is so exciting because you're told that. And I was told that, you know, if it's happening there, it's happening there. And I'm going, yeah, okay. But I witnessed it firsthand. I was going, I'll be darned. Yeah, that's what does happen. They do it in a new building. They do it over here. Our teachers, I can't say enough about who is in our school. We have
The hardworking teachers and the staff. and
we
working
do.
with students.
The people that are in front of our kids, they are just awesome.
So keeping those employees is probably a continuing challenge for districts as well. You know, you have a lot of opportunities for teachers in today's world.
Oh, yes, we do. So, and that's one of our board goals is retention rate. And we don't like to lose any. The retirement party that I go to is probably one of the saddest days that I go to. You just see all these years of experience
And then
go out.
And people in the community see those teachers that they've had and said, oh, wow, I remember Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so.
But, you know, and we have some new ones coming up. We do a program called TOPS.
Right.
And it's Teacher Orientation Program. And they do that for 3 days. And so the board will meet the new teachers. And it's just...
And kind of mentoring them as they come into the district.
And, you know, a big majority of those are, you know, very young people.
Right. Well, the people who graduate from college, you know, come here and go on to go to work. Right.
People that come from Southern, you know, they're 22, whatever, and they just look like babies. But and you go and watch them teach, and it's like the maturity level is so incredible of how they are around students.
They're ready to go and ready to
They're
teach their
ready, and
students.
so it's exciting. It really is.
So as we're wrapping up summer, getting ready for the start of school, Joplin School District's ready to go for the new year.
They are ready to go. We'll have a big kickoff, and one of the other things we're doing is if people want to help be part of history, we're selling a ribbon that we're going to wrap around the whole entire high school.
Oh, okay.
And so you can purchase an inch, a foot, or whatever, and be part of history. And we're trying to beat the Guinness World Book of Records just for an activity that Bright Futures is doing.
Right. Well, there's a lot happening, and I know we'll follow up throughout the school year with many of the things happening in the district as well.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank you for taking time visiting with us and sharing with the community today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I was happy to be here.
You're welcome. And thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. I'll see you again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.